for future listening. So what I ask everyone to do at this time is if they could put their phones on mute. If you have questions throughout the presentation, you'll notice in the bottom left-hand corner of the viewing there's a chat session that you'll be able to ask questions during. And I'm sure at the end of Sarah Ann's presentation, she will definitely have time for question and answer period as well. So just to avoid the background noise, if everyone could just mute their phones, that would be appreciated.
Okay.
I'd like to introduce Sarah Ann and welcome her and thank her for joining us today and agreeing to lead this discussion. Sarah Ann, I'll let you take over the webinar.
Wonderful. Well, this is for those of you that are new to doing webinars, you're in good company because I've never conducted one. So this should be a real experiment for both of us, and hopefully it'll turn out well and you'll feel that your time has been well spent. You know, as I've said many times when I'm talking about the NCA, some of what I have to say to you today will probably not be new to some of you, and to others it will be new. So if you've been in the NCA a while, and we have a few of you with us today, some of what you're going to hear is probably a little bit repetitive, but it's always good to review NCA information because if you're like me, and I often have to laugh about this, even saying it. Some people may not believe me when I say this, but I often forget what it is that we have decided on, what our rules are, what our policy is. And although I never forget why I created the organization, it wouldn't be unusual for me to run into members who say, you know what, I completely forgot that that's what that was all about. So hopefully you'll find something of value, and I welcome feedback. So please do take a moment tomorrow or whenever you have time to digest this webinar and let me know how you've experienced it. When I first joined the concierge profession 22 years ago, one of the first things I heard about my new job is that people think there's a mystique about us, that we can pull rabbit out of a hat and even part waters with the wave of a hand. And you know, that's okay for people to think that of you and me as concierge. I mean, if we're doing our job right, that's exactly what our clients should be thinking. In reality, though, no one in the world today is successful without the help of other people. No one. The NCA exists to make your job easier, to help you be even better than you know you can be, and to provide you serious credentials in the extremely competitive world of hospitality services. It is certainly my pleasure to speak with you this afternoon, and I'm just going to thank you ahead of time for sharing this time with me because I know we're all very busy people. Want to go to the next slide, Jill? So during my session today, I'm going to share with you my thoughts on our profession, and I'm going to give you an overview of the history of the NCA and our industry, as well as a brief introduction to our wonderful NCA programs. I'm going to try to leave some time at the end of my presentation for your questions, and Jill, you remind me if I forget to do so. But as we move along, please jot your questions down, and I'm going to do my best to work them in the end. To start things off, let's direct our attention to the slide that's on the screen. Now, this represents to me a well-known fact. As much as we all depend on the Internet for answers, you and I, we know, and every concierge in the world knows, it's not what you know, it's who that counts at the end of the day. But speaking of iMac and iPhones, iPods, and all the other technological devices, let me begin by telling you a little story. A few years ago, Apple Computer gathered together 18 of their star managers from across the U.S., and they asked them one simple, very simple question. They said, where in recent memory did you receive your very best customer service? And guess what? 16 of the 18 answered unequivocally, from a concierge. So what Apple did in response was historic. They installed what amounts to Concierge in all of their stores.
Please enter your 7-digit access code followed by the pound key.
How are we getting that, Jill?
I think someone doesn't have their phone on mute, please.
Okay. All right. They started to say they installed what amounts to Concierge in all of their stores, and they gave them the title of genius. Today, when one walks into an Apple store, customers are getting the very best concierge service that money can buy. Genius, I think, is an excellent explanation of why concierge services work so well for everyone throughout the world. Next slide, please. Most of us know this, but our title, concierge, and by the way, it is pronounced concierge. One of my pet peeves is people calling it concierge. I just hate when I hear that. So the title is pronounced concierge, and it has its roots in the palaces of French nobility from well over 200 years ago or so. The concierge was the individual who held the keys to the palace rooms and then looked after the needs of the royal visitors. To this day, the key symbol is prevalent when describing concierge services, and in fact, as you and I both know, the title means keeper of the keys. Now, taking this ancient tradition of hospitality into the future, hotel concierge have been employed in 4- to 5-star properties for over 100 years. But with both parents in the workplace, corporate America also got on the hospitality bandwagon about 25 years or so ago, and today you're going to find concierge services in quite a few sectors of the business world, in corporations, high-end residential properties, civic, academic, medical, entertainment, private club, just to name a few, and of course, as always, in hotels.